This smartphone with two screens cost only 150 euros. Yes, 150 euros. If you want to know everything about this device, you know what to do. Stay here on TechGround. Alright guys, let's do this. Today we're going to talk about the Hafury V1. Previously we talked on the channel about the Hafury Meet, a phone that, as I mentioned, surprised me quite a bit. A phone where I liked everything from it, from the packaging to the phone itself and the overall experience. It all impressed me quite a bit. Today we're going to talk about the Hafury V1, an even more low-cost version of this phone. In this case, as I mentioned, it costs around 150 euros. As this brand, Hafury, focuses a lot on women. From the packaging to the entire product, it targets more of a female audience. For example, this particular model seems much more suited to a female profile, but the Hafury Meet, for example, that we saw earlier, is a phone that I aesthetically liked a lot and would personally use because I personally loved the design. In this case, we find a very pink model, which I think is more suited towards a female audience, but obviously if you like the color pink, this device could also be to your liking. It's also targeted at a female audience because the factory included case is this one right over here, so yes, it is very much for a female audience. However, if you like it, you can also use this case. As I said, everything in the presentation follows this very theme. When you do the unboxing, you see that it comes in quite a different box, very nice and attractive, opening from the sides. Inside, there's a note that says, "The best love for her," and underneath that note, you find everything else. You can see the case I'm talking about, which is very eye-catching, and in that box we have the lanyard that we can attach to this case, in case we choose to use it and hang it to around our necks, close to our bodies. As I mentioned, it's a very striking case. I tried it and also put it on my girlfriend, recording some footage of how the phone looked on her. Continuing with the unboxing, we find the device, which attracts attention due to its rear screen, which we'll discuss in detail later. There are also two other small boxes containing the charger and the USB Type-C cable, both in the same sky blue color as the box, which is very pretty, a very light blue. Having said that, let's now focus on the device. As you can see, aesthetically, it's a device that comes entirely in pink. It's a very light, soft pink, and the camera module inevitably reminds us of an iPhone. It differs significantly from iPhones because on the right side we have this second small screen, but the camera module inevitably reminds us of an iPhone. This second screen is quite small and quite basic. Its image quality is not the greatest. It allows for some functions, but for example, when we are outdoors, this screen, quite honestly, is quite hard to see. It's mainly for indoor use with its various functionalities. For example, by default, when you double tap, the screen lights up and shows a default clock, but you can change the phases among other available models. For me, the most interesting option, or the biggest utility of this small screen, is the selfie option. You can take selfies using the main camera module, which results in much better photos with even bigger quality than using the frontal camera. This small screen also serves as a notification LED. If you receive any notification, call, or the like, you can see it on this small screen. You can also use it as a music player, allowing you to play or pause songs directly from this screen. Continuing with the design of the device, I can say it's quite a normal phone in other aspects. It has a normal weight, about 200 grams. We have the usual buttons, volume up and down, and the power button on the right side of the phone. And this power button, which is quite thin, also has a fingerprint sensor. This fingerprint sensor works perfectly well for a phone in its price range, I mean. It's fast and quite responsive. On the left side, we have the SIM tray, where you can place two SIM cards for two numbers or one SIM card and one micro SD card. And at the bottom, we have the main speaker for the device and the USB Type-C connector. Let's move on to the phone's screen. It has a 6.58-inch IPS display with a resolution of 1080 by 2408 pixels, resulting in a pixel density of 441 pixels per inch. This device doesn't have a 120Hz screen, which is more than normal in its price range. If it had a 120Hz screen, it would be great, of course, but obviously this is noticeable. It's a very basic screen. For reading WhatsApp messages, browsing social media and so on, it's more than adequate. You can see everything well, but when viewing images or watching videos, the basic nature of the screen is more than evident. Now let's talk about the device's performance. It features a MediaTek Helio G99 processor, a processor commonly found in many Chinese phones, even in some mid-range or slightly higher range models. This processor performs well. It is accompanied by 8GB of RAM, and during my testing with different games, as I always do, I test different heavy-duty games, I noticed that while it can run heavy games, there are some lags. For example, in Asphalt, I noticed some stutters. The same happened with PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. There were occasional lags. This doesn't make gaming impossible. You can play games, but don't expect the best performance, as there might be some stutters or perhaps even some lags. The 8GB of RAM it comes with are real, physical, and they can be expanded virtually by another 8GB. The device runs on Android 13, which is typical, as it would be unusual to have Android 14 at this point. I don't know if it will be updated or not, but it comes with Android 13. We must talk about the camera, and to talk about this point, we must consider it's a €150 phone. The camera quality is what you'd expect for that price. You can see the results yourself in various photos and videos I took in different moments and such. We can see here that the video stabilization is quite poor, and the daytime photo quality isn't entirely bad, but nothing particularly outstanding. And nighttime photos suffer significantly. Honestly, they are quite poor. I insist, the camera quality reflects the phone's price. The photos aren't exactly terrible, but for video, the stabilization and audio quality are noticeably lacking. For the frontal camera, as usual, I made 2 videos, one during the day and one at night, to show the stabilization, the audio quality, and the image quality. Here are the 2 videos. Alright, video test, frontal camera, daytime conditions on the Hafury V1. This is how it looks. And you can hear the audio and see the stabilizer working. Now the frontal camera of the Hafury V1. Nighttime, as you can see, the camera struggles much more in low light conditions. This is the result. Its battery is 4,350 milliamps, which performs quite well. Due to the low-end specifications of the phone, such as the screen and such, the power consumption in this is quite low, leaving this 4,350 milliamps to provide a good battery life. However, it doesn't support fast charging at 9 watts. So, that's the device. I want to know your guys' opinions. What do you think? Personally, I think it's not a bad device considering it costs €150. There are few decent phones in this particular price range. In this case, while it doesn't stand out in any particular area besides its aesthetics and the second small screen, which I personally find interesting, the rest of this phone is quite basic. It's ideal for someone looking for a first phone, perhaps for a younger sibling or someone who doesn't need high-end features in its phone. Just a phone for calls, WhatsApp, etc. This would be an interesting option in that case. So that's it. Leave your impressions in the comments below. Tell me what you guys think about this particular phone, this Hafury V1, and I'll be reading and responding to each and every one of you. That's all for now, and until next time, see ya.